everybody, this is Miss Pisano from Boys and Girls Club, Martin Middle School, Garden to Table. So week 4 today. I hope everyone's safe. First, let me start before anything we do, just to kind of, can't believe it's week 4 already. We have 6 weeks of our program, so we're kind of at the midway point. So kind of everybody who knows me, some cute, gentle reminders. So I have my green monster shirt with a bicycle. And my mantra is always an hour on that screen, an hour in the green. No pun intended, and pun intended. That means if you are video gaming, and we love it because you're seeing me on video. So that's just awesome, and we're so grateful. But really, 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 really try to go outside. Even if it's just with your planting, that will be phenomenal. And then you're taking care of something with the earth. Or if you're blessed and you can go bike riding, or rollerblading or skateboarding, or go to the beach or the pool, do a little bit of that too. But stay safe. Remember, sunscreen and bug repellent. And notice I have my crazy boots on all the time because you really have to watch yourself when you're so close to the woods. Okay, so enough of my lecture. Welcome to week 4. So today, we are going to focus on the herb of basil. And what I have here is sweet basil. And when I went to kind of prop myself to be able to talk to you today, it was totally covered with my zucchini plants. So as you can see, things start to become harvested. And that's another word where the fruits of your labor, no pun intended, you put a lot of time in, you planted, and now things start to come back. So the zucchini was planted early on in May, and now we're able to get a few. They're huge. They're huge. We have a ton. So that'll be my job later, to go around and plant some of them. So some vegetables are ready now, like the zucchini, as well as the basil. What we're going to talk about later is planting some pumpkin seeds, which I've started, and my plants are already growing. However, there still is time. We're in, a growing zone that you can still plant, and it'll give you time so that you'll have them for the, October and November. So, getting back to our basil. Our basil, there's many, many kinds of basil. And basil can either be a perennial, one of our vocab words, meaning it comes back year after year once you plant it, or it can be an annual, some forms, meaning once you plant it, it only comes up once. And that's what the sweet basil is, what this is. It's really you have to use it this year. Also, mine's starting to look a little wilty and a little beat up. What you have to start to use it before it flowers, because then I believe it loses some of its taste. So we're going to be using, if you have some at home, you can use it for the recipe. And what happens with every herb is the fresh herb can be processed and dried. So I believe in today's recipe, you're actually going to be receiving the dried version of it, which is really cool because the plant can be used either way. But if I'm going to use this, whether I dry it or use it in different recipes, as you can see, it needs to be planted soon. So just a little background to the basil. Take out my trusty book and give us a little bit of folklore and history. Remember another word, those of you who are just joining us, the word culinary was in our vocab, and that means kitchen, anything to do with cooking in the kitchen. So this is a culinary herb, beloved for its warm, spicy flavor and great scent. Basil in all its species is native to Africa, Asia, the Middle East, the Caribbean, and South America. It's been used more than 2,000 years and was originally revered for its spiritual powers, and then was connected briefly with evil in the 16th century Europe. But back again, the Italians, my heritage, never lost sight of its role in the kitchen. And starting with Virgil, who was a famous writer, and he was the first person thousands of years ago to actually mention pesto, which is you add basil, olive oil, pine nuts, and some cheese, and it's a green sauce. And you can put it over pasta or on pizza. And so fresh basil, and it was mentioned years ago. So that's our herb of the week. And so now we're going to transition today. And last week we talked about sunflowers. So you saw my sunflower plant, and then you received, I'm gonna switch my glasses because it's hot today. So you received your seeds in which you were able to plant in the ground. So remember, anything you have, your potted rosemary, your planted seeds in the ground, or if you planted the rosemary in the ground, or the sunflowers, remember, water, water, water every day, check them out. Now this morning, I don't know, in your little neck of the woods, as Al Roker says, it rained. So you might get some great blessings where you don't have to water everybody all the time. And that gives you a little break too. But again, your job really is to make sure it's getting enough sunlight, not too much so it dries out, and water it every day. So last week we did the sunflower seeds where you planted them, and then you had a mixture of a snack that was part roasted sunflower seeds, the outside with the crunchy shell, and then the soft inside. And that soft inside sometimes people use even on salads. This week we're gonna do something similar in the garden world, and you're gonna kind of receive the same type of packaging. And what it is the front one is going to be your pumpkin seeds. These are what you are going to plant in the ground with little directions. And this week, as a flavor, again, the pumpkin seeds you put in the ground have not been roasted, have not been dried. Notice those words, those verbs. That's my English coming out. That means the process has happened. They've basically been cooked somehow, okay? The seeds you get that we put in the ground haven't been processed. So inside has the ability to grow. They haven't been cooked, so they can grow. So that's the difference between the seeds. This week, you were going to get a snack. I made it a little sweet. Last week, I know, oof, a lot of seeds. This week, we're gonna have some M&Ms. We're gonna have some dried cranberry. Again, I wanted to give you that experience of how fruit and vegetables and herbs can be manipulated and used different ways. So you can have fresh cranberries or dried cranberries just for a little fruit, and then the dry roasted pumpkin seeds. So we're gonna do a little mixture. So that's your snack. So follow me, getting back. So this week we're gonna plant some pumpkin seeds. Now the criteria with the pumpkin seeds, like everything else, sunny area, lots of water, but more than anything else, the sunflower seeds last week, we had to worry about you having height going upwards. The pumpkin seeds, you have to worry if they take them expanding. So follow me. I'll walk through my little patch of squash and over. This plant is a pumpkin plant. This started with these. These started from the ground. It's unbelievable. Many of my other plants in my garden that my dad helped me with started with plants, like how I gave you the rosemary. This is what can happen. I am like astounded because this came from seed. So I think there's still time. Your job is to make sure you have space, so if this takes off, it will grow. So all you have to do is, I'm gonna plant it here so that if this plant takes off, I can train the vines. You can move the vines too, just don't break them, because I actually had to train it to go across here because I had room. So all you're gonna do is go in an inch, kind of the same rule of thumb. You're gonna go down an inch with your shovel, whatever you have, even if you have a cup at home, you don't have to use anything fancy. I like to put in about 3 seeds even in one, because I think they have a better chance of sprouting, and kind of my crazy way of doing it worked, because look what took off here. And you put the seeds in, then you cover them. Uh-oh, then I forgot my watering can again, but that's okay. Your next step is to water. I'm not gonna run over, it's okay. And you water, and you just keep checking them every single day. That really is all we have to do for the pumpkins. The only thing is, my fair warning, they usually take, just have to make sure you have a lot of room. Now once they take, it's gonna take a few months for them to harvest. Again, our word. The zucchinis are ready to go now. Some of my tomatoes, I have eggplants, they can be picked probably in another week or two. But any of your sunflowers or pumpkins, because we're planting them in July, take anywhere from 75 to 100 days. So that's a few months for them to, for them to come to fruition and have the fruit. Okay. Well, welcome, and it was great talking and seeing everyone again. Please visit us too on Wednesday afternoons at 2 o'clock, from 2 to 3. Mrs. Kelly and I kind of talk about the week, visit with you, and if you have any questions, about our garden to table. And also, those of you might want to check out the Google Classroom, because you can please add your beautiful pictures. I want to see how your herbs are doing, or if you made any of the cool recipes, or if you drew anything, then just send some pictures our way so we can include it in the book. Okay, have a great week. See you soon.
Hi boys and girls, welcome back to Garden to Table Week 4. I am Mrs. Kelly. So as usual, I'm going to walk you through what you should have received in your bag, and then we can go ahead and get started on this week's recipe, which is tomato basil snackers. Yum. So what you should have gotten is your recipe. You should have gotten 2 English muffins, 2 plum tomatoes, 1/3 cup of mozzarella, 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise, and then you should have 1/2 teaspoon of basil, and then 1/8 teaspoon of pepper, which will be mixed together for you. So those are all of the things you should have received in your bag. The first thing we want to do is make sure that our oven is preheated, and you can see it's set to 425 degrees, and we do have it preheating, so that is all set to go for us. And again, make sure that we are asking our parents' permission before we touch anything in the kitchen. We want to make sure we're being as safe as possible. So I strongly encourage you to have a parent with you. Please make sure that you are asking permission at the very least. If not, if you can't have the parent with you. So we're going to go ahead and wash our hands. As always, we want to make sure we're being nice and safe and clean in the kitchen. So we're just going to get some soap. And reminder, sing your ABCs. Once you get through those ABCs, you know it's been about that 20 seconds and you have washed your hands for long enough, and you should be all set to do your recipe. All right, so hands are nice and clean. I'm gonna grab my paper towel, dry off. All right, so we are ready to go. One more thing I'm gonna do beforehand. Again, we wanna make sure that we are rinsing any fruits or vegetables that we receive. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this under the faucet. Again, it will be pre-rinsed for you. I will be rinsing everything before you get it, but can't hurt to be extra safe, so please make sure that you are doing that before you start your cooking. So what we're going to be making, again, is tomato basil snackers. So we're going to start off with 2 toasted English muffins. Now you're going to get your English muffins in the package this way. So English muffins, they are, the ones you're getting are going to be pre-cut. And all you have to do, use your fingers, and you can kind of slowly break it apart. If you prefer, you can use a knife to open it, but these are pre-cut for you, so a knife really isn't necessary. And if you do use a knife to open your English muffin, you won't necessarily get all of those delicious, what they call nooks and crannies, which is where all of your yummy spreads can kind of get into the bread and, you know, absorb all that delicious flavor. So you will get 2 of them. You can see I've already toasted one of mine over here. So these are pre-toasted, they are ready to go. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our mayonnaise. Now, mayonnaise is a mix of oil, egg yolks, vinegar, or possibly lemon juice, it depends. And what I have is light mayonnaise, so it's a little bit healthier for you. Now you're getting 2 tablespoons worth. You don't have to use 1/2 tablespoon on each one. That might be a little bit too much. You might have more than you need here. So feel free. I like to go a little light on the mayonnaise. It's not something that I like to have a ton of, but if you're a fan of mayonnaise and you like a lot, You are welcome to use the entire container, but probably won't be necessary. So we're gonna spread that on our English muffins. All right. So we've got our mayonnaise. And again, using a butter knife or when using a regular knife, anything you're using in the kitchen, please ask a parent permission or have a parent with you while you are working. So I'm gonna set these aside real quick. I'm gonna put it this way so we don't lose any of that delicious goodness. And we'll come back to that in a sec. The next thing we wanna do is focus on our plum tomatoes. Now you may remember in Miss Holly's presentation a few minutes ago that she just said that fruits and vegetables and herbs, certain ones can be dried out so that you can enjoy them. So there's multiple different ways to enjoy them. Tomatoes are also something that can be dried out and enjoyed. However, this week we are going to use fresh tomatoes, and this is actually called a plum tomato. So, as always, making sure we're holding our knife correctly, no finger on the top, no finger underneath, and making sure we're curling in our fingers. So we're gonna go ahead, we don't wanna eat either end, because that's where you would have picked from. You don't wanna eat that. That can be a little hard and not exactly tasty. So we're just gonna chop that piece off. And then it's up to you how many slices you want on each one. You will have 2 plum tomatoes. So I would say anywhere from 2 to 3 slices per per half of your English muffin. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut a few slices for us. And you can make them as thin or as thick as you would like. That's completely up to you, depending on how much you like tomatoes. And tomatoes are actually, they're used as a vegetable, but they are actually a fruit. So, and they're actually considered a berry, which is pretty cool because that's something I didn't know. I just learned that yesterday. So you learn something new every day. So, here we go. Now we've got our mayonnaise on. We're gonna take our plum tomatoes, and again, 2 or 3 on each one. I'm just gonna do 2. And we're gonna lay those on, okay? Next thing we're going to add is our seasoning. So we've got our basil, which Miss Holly was nice enough to educate us on back in the garden. And then we also got a little bit of black pepper. Now, pepper comes from a flowering vine, and it's cultivated for peppercorns. If you've ever seen, they're like small circles, and you can actually grind those up, and that's where pepper comes from. You grind up those peppercorns. And they are, again, something that can be dried and used for us for our seasoning. So it's gonna be mixed together here for you. I would suggest, because if you try to do it, just like shake it out of the container, a lot might come out at once. So I would suggest just taking a pinch and sprinkling it over the top. Because again, if you try to shake it out of the container, it might come out in a big blob, and then you're gonna have a very strong bite of basil or pepper in there. So I would suggest just doing a pinch, and you can go ahead and put it on there and use as much or as little as you'd like. If basil is something you've had before and you really like the flavor, that's something that you can definitely add a bit more of. You should have more than enough in there to add a little extra. And if you want, you are getting the dried basil this week, but if you want, you certainly can. If you have basil at home, or if you wanted to go out and buy fresh basil, you can certainly do that with this recipe if you would like. All you want to do is you want to cut up your leaves of basil, as you saw in Miss Holly's garden. You just want to cut them up into fine strips, so very thin strips, and then you would lay them across the top, okay? All right, so we've got one more step, and that is to add our delicious cheese, which is mozzarella. So, mozzarella, is from southern Italy, and it can be made with all different kinds of milk. And depending on the type of milk that is used, it's going to change the color. So it can vary in color from white to like a very light yellow, depending on what kind of milk is used. But most of the time, whole cow's milk is what is used to make it. All right, so now we've got our cheese on, And you should use about half of the container on 2, so you have the other half of your container left for your other English muffin. So you should have more than enough there for you. And what we're going to do, now that we've got our snackers all set and ready to go, I have my pan. I'm going to take our snackers. We're gonna add those to our pan. If you do not have a pan, you can even just put it on some aluminum foil, and that works as well. So I've got those in my pan and all set to go. And as I said last time we used the oven, even though this pan is cold to the touch right now, I like to be super safe, and I want you to be super safe. So I am going to use my oven mitt. Now, when you open the oven, I believe I might have said this last time, you don't want to be super close to it because heat's going to be coming out. So take a step back, pull open your door. We're going to grab our pan with our mitt. Slowly put that in. Be very careful. You don't want to burn yourself. And then slowly close that again. And again, we're at 425 degrees. Depending on your oven, it should take anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes. So when they are done, I will meet you back here. Thanks. Welcome back. So our snackers have been in the oven for about 7 minutes. So we're going to check on them and see if they're ready to go. I have my mitt here. I just want to make sure that I'm being safe. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open our oven. And I'm going to very carefully take out my snackers. And then I'm going to close my oven back up. All right. And I am actually going to put my snackers on a mitt because I want to make sure that I'm not burning whatever surface that I'm putting my pan on. So I'm going to put that down. And we want to make sure once we take those out and they're done, we need to turn off our oven because we want to make sure that it's not in use. We don't need it anymore. And especially in this hot weather, we don't need it to get any hotter in the house. So make sure that that is off. And I'll let you take a look at those delicious tomato basil snackers. And they are looking good. You can see the cheese has started to brown a little bit. All right, so that is exactly what they should look like. Remember, you will have 2 English muffins, which will give you 4 of these snackers. And I really hope you and your family enjoy. Have a great week. Bye.